Oh my gosh. These names are so hard to keep track of. My opinions on Kale have changed. I'm so relieved that that is not the case. Hello, my name is Taylor and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be reading Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. I am reading this one following The Assassin's Blade. I decided to read this series in publishing order, so I've had a whole book in between this one and Crown of Midnight, so I'm super excited to get into this one and pick up where we left off in that one. I kind of left myself at a little cliffhanger there. But this video is going to be a mix of vlog style as well as just like updating you with some of my reviews, where I'm at in the book, kind of just like my reactions to them as well. It will also contain spoilers. It will mention that in the thumbnail, as with all my other videos. I will have other videos up on this channel though about my other reactions to the previous 3 books that I've read in this series. But I'm super excited to get into Heir of Fire because in Crown of Midnight, of course, we find out that Celaena is actually the heir to the throne of Terrasen. Her name is actually Aelin, not Celaena. She's been living under the alias Celaena since she was about 8 years old, I believe. So we've gotten over a decade of knowing Celaena as Celaena. I'm sure in this book, because this one comes in around 562 pages, I believe, that we're just gonna get into much more adventure, much more betrayal, friendship, discovering who Celaena really is, and seeing her kind of step into her true identity as Aelin. Just given the title itself, Heir of Fire, one can only assume that we're probably going to be getting the heir of, you know, Fire, Terrasen. We also know that she's Fae, so there's a lot to unpack in Celaena's history and reclaiming that identity and finding out just who she truly is, how she fits into the world, especially after Nehemiah's death, and kind of using the power that Nehemiah believes that she had in her to better change the world, to do good. I think that we'll see probably a lot of that from Celaena in this one, at least like coming to grips with that reality and understanding that there's a reason that Celaena keeps being called to be the change in the world. So I'm really excited to get into this one. I can only imagine what Celaena is going to get into in this book, so I'm just really excited to find out, and I hope that you'll stick around to watch me read Heir of Fire. Figured it was time to give an update on where I'm at in Heir of Fire. I have not been reading this one as quickly as I thought I was going to be, honestly. It keeps jumping between different points of view. So far, all of these books have been in third person, primarily following Celaena, but in this book, we're following Celaena, Kale, and Manon, who is one of like 13 witches in the coven of like the Blackbeaks. And so we're getting all 3 of these different points of view, and it's really interesting to follow them, but I'm curious to see how all of these different points of view are going to tie in together, especially the one with the witches, because not only are we being introduced to like what the witches really do and like where they've been at and just like a glimpse of that history, but we're also seeing wyverns, which is, they've been alluded to in one of the books, but we have not been in contact with any wyverns. And now the witches are basically like going to train with them. They're each going to get their own, and it's basically a gift from the king to bolster some benefit of his that he has. Obviously, some conquering the world idea that he has stirring up. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking because not only are the witches terrifying that we've met, but also now we have wyverns, which we've already seen in one episode, like they basically are just like licking bones clean, like eating people whole. So a little terrifying. I have a feeling already though that Selena is gonna naturally be great with wyverns or something. Like that just would make sense, I feel like. But we've also been introduced to Rowan, who is like basically a really distant cousin of Selena's, and every time Sarah J Maas brings up like how distant of cousins they are, I get nervous that there's going to be some like incest basically, because I just like don't really have much hope for Kale and Selena anymore. Like I feel like maybe they will maybe have like some moments together, but like long term I don't necessarily see them together. Like I just am getting like this vibe. And I have also heard like spoilers about Kale ending up not being really like the best person in one of the books, and I know that one of the future books that I have to read in this series is like primarily Kale's point of view, and another book that we have coming up is primarily Selena's point of view. So I've been thinking about doing like a tandem read for those two books, but I'm not really sure yet, because if they're both huge, then I'm gonna have to like carry around two big books with me all the time, but I primarily read at home, so that's a good thing. Anyway though, I am enjoying Heir of Fire so far. It's kind of been like slower pacing just because of the multiple points of view, so you're kind of being like pulled out of one thing, like when you're kind of being like left at cliffhangers constantly, so it's bingeable, but at the same time kind of slow reading, if that makes any sense at all. So yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of enjoying it. Selena is just kind of starting to train with Rowan, who is completely like fae, and she's met her Aunt Maeve, who is like basically depicted as like this terrifying woman, very much giving Rysand vibes, Rysand, however the frick you say his name, apparently calling him Reese, no. But anyway, that's kind of giving like the same vibes in like the terms of like she's kind of all seeing and she's known for like her wickedness, and she just gives off this like really terrifying vibe, and that reminds me a lot of Rysand's character. But I'm curious to see how Selena and Maeve's relationship develops throughout the book, as well as her and Rowan's, because she's going to be doing her training with Rowan until she can get through these doors into this like fae kingdom essentially, and she needs to like prove herself through this training and like tapping into like herself as fae, and it's not easy for her to just like shift either. As for Kale, where we're at with him, Selena's other cousin Ashriver, what's his name, Aiden Ashriver, is just being like a pain in Kale's butt basically, and just like stealing his guards to go party. So yeah, not like a ton has happened. I'm only like 16% of the way through or something. I finished 13 chapters by this point, so a little over 100 pages. I plan to do some reading today just to kind of like get the ball rolling again, because I haven't read for a few days, but I'm excited to get back into it. I'm just not sure how I'm feeling about the multiple POVs at this point, but I'm excited to get back into this world nonetheless. I've read about 70 pages since my last update, and I am now 31% of the way through Heir of Fire according to Fable, and I kind of misspoke earlier. There's actually more points of view than what I had originally said. We're also getting Dorian's point of view. We've gotten little glimpses of Aiden's point of view. I'm curious to see if we'll end up getting Rowan's point of view at any point in this book, but we're getting lots of information. So far, I would say the slowest part of this book for me has been reading from Manon's point of view and the witches, just because we're not really sure like how it's all gonna connect at this point. So it's more like, okay, can we get back to Celaena? And in the last chapter I just read, Celaena was able to shift sort of easily into her Fae form and basically run with Aiden to escape these skinwalkers, which the way they're described as like basically being like stitched up by various fleshes is really gruesome and gross, but also like interesting. Like it was very gripping. It was also a really long chapter, I think. Yeah, chapter 22 was like a slightly longer chapter, just following Celaena running away from where she's been training with Rowan and basically being like, screw you, because he has said some awful things to Celaena. He's also protecting her. Like, it's such a weird relationship. It's the relationships in this series in general have just been so complex, and I'm really enjoying it. We're also getting, with Dorian, we're getting his point of view with Sorsha, and she's a healer in the castle, and he definitely has like a little bit of a crush on her or finds her somewhat alluring and is basically making more time to see her. Like, he keeps getting hurt training and keeps going to her, but now she knows about his powers, so there's like that plot line. And then Kale also told Aelin that, oh my gosh, these names are so hard to keep track of. Kale also told Aiden that Aelin is still alive, and so now maybe we can see them working together, but they still like don't really like each other. Kale really only said it to basically save his own neck, so I had like conflicting feelings about that. But yeah, there's like more people are finding out that Celaena is Aelin and that Aelin is alive. Like it's been like kind of spreading like rumors for decades, but now it's kind of becoming more solidified, especially now that Celaena is out of the castle. People are like, who is this curious woman? And it's just been, yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a read, and yeah, I'm only 30% of the way in and 177 pages in, and we got a lot more to uncover in this book, and there's already been a lot of plot points in this one where the story could just really go anywhere, and I don't know how we're gonna like wrap everything up either, so that'll be interesting. But I will continue reading and then get back to you if something else crazy happens. I'm now 43% of the way through Heir of Fire, and I just wanted to create a quick update because I'm really curious to see who Celaena's mate is going to be, because this book is the first book in this series that has even spoke of mates. And just going off of Sarah J. Maas's mate theories in ACOTAR, of it being this like bond, this like string that's like tugging between two people, and it feels like stronger than anything, and like almost being able to read each other's thoughts. Celaena has been described to have a bond with her cousin Aiden that is extremely strong like that, as well as with Rowan in terms of like the almost being able to like understand what he's saying without speaking. And they're both like her cousins, so I hope it's just that they're close family and great friends and not anything more than that. because that's making me nervous. But up until this point, we've pretty much just seen Selena continue to train with Rowan. Dorian has kissed Sorsha because she gave him like an iron pill to help suppress his magic, and it worked. I feel like that's just gonna end so messy. And Kale and Aiden are still just trying to figure things out together. So yeah, that's about it. I'm to page 320. What chapter is this? Chapter 37. And I saw this coming. I knew it was going to happen at some point in the series. And then as soon as Manon, the Switch, started talking about how nothing has fixed Abraxo's wings, she's going to go try this other item and she has to travel for it. And I just knew when she was saying that what it was going to be, and it's spider silk. I hate spiders. Like, spiders terrify me. I definitely have arachnophobia. And so I am not ready to read the rest of this chapter. I don't want to hear about 8 legs or eyes or how big these Stygian spiders are. Oh my gosh. I'm 62% of the way in. I just finished chapter 40, and my opinions on Kale have changed for sure since Crown of Midnight. In Crown of Midnight, Kale is depicted as this swoon-worthy male main character, perfect for Selena, until we learn of his betrayal in not telling Selena about Nehemia and the danger that she was in. Obviously that changed a lot of opinions that I had on Kale then, because all of a sudden, like, it was just such a jarring situation where you're like, you really start falling for this character, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, maybe they're not the dreamboat that we imagine them to be. But in this book, in Heir of Fire, Kale is just kind of getting on my nerves. He's trying to figure out a way to save Selena and to like make sure she's okay, but at the same time a lot of the stuff he's doing is for his own benefit. And he just had this conversation with Aiden about how Kale is not picking a side, and that's really problematic because he doesn't serve the king but doesn't serve Selena either. And so there's this weird like juxtaposition of where his true loyalties lie, and he keeps saying that his loyalties lie to Dorian, but he's been horrible to Dorian. And Dorian, I underline that, and I will have included those clips in here. Dorian snapped back at him and was like, you can't choose what parts of Selena that you want to accept, and you can't choose what parts of me that you want to accept, because Kale isn't okay with magic, and he isn't okay with things changing. He's finding it all really confusing, and he just wants to go back to this rose-tinted glass version of the way things were before. But even then, those things weren't great when Selena was even training to be the king's assassin, and it wasn't great when she was at the castle and performing the king's tasks. So I really don't know what Kale is hoping for here. But we've also seen a slight development in Selena and Rowan's story, and they are fighting less. They're still very much like butting heads, but we're almost seeing some like feelings develop, and I just like don't know how to feel about it, because there's also the chance of Aiden and Aelin developing feelings, but they're cousins. They're cousins. And technically Rowan is Celaena's cousin as well, even though it's like through some like distant relation. And I'm trying to like wrap my head around if like if I would be open to accepting Rowan as like Celaena's love interest. Because are we talking like distant, like we're all cousins and related to like Adam and Eve type stuff? Like how old is Maeve? Like millennia old? Like what are we talking here? Like how distant of cousins are you? Because it's making me a little uncomfortable to like imagine them as cousins and like potentially being mates, because there keeps being this talk of like this ember in Celaena that is like glowing. It could just be like the fire, like her magic power, but it's like the way it's being described is more like a mating bond thing with potentially Rowan. But I really don't know. Like, I really don't know if he's gonna be the main love interest, because it's kind of hinting at that right now. But then also with Aiden, like Aiden basically said like, yeah, I would be king if Celaena asked. Y'all just gonna rule it together as cousins, not as lovers, right? Like, I don't know. This book is definitely taking a lot of turns. I'm super invested in it now. It's super easy to fly through it. I'm officially a couple chapters into part 2, and I still have quite a bit left, as you can see, but I am really enjoying this now because there's just like so much happening at this point. I don't know how I feel. Our author is really trying to set Rowan up as a potential lover. Not really sure if mate is the right word, because they've had like moments where like she kisses him on his cheek for buying her chocolates, and he like brushes her hair and just like took care of her when her power was like blazing and basically almost killed her from the fire, like burning her inside out. And so it's been like really sweet, and like now he won't let her sleep in her own room. Like now she sleeps in his bed with him. Okay, if this is anything like the mating stories that Sarah J. Maas wrote in ACOTAR, like Rowan's already offered Celaena food and she's eaten it, and they have this like bond that they're kind of like, they're just like speaking to each other wordlessly. And you know, people can sometimes look at each other and say things to each other and like have it be like registered without actually saying anything, but it's like, are these like actual words in their head, or is these just like silent understandings? And I'm just feeling like so conflicted on what this relationship here is, because they've also said like, I have this need, but it's not for the other person, it's just like to protect them. And so I'm just like so confused on what's happening, and maybe that's the point. But yeah, there's just like, there's so much buildup of them potentially being with each other, so I'm just a little like confused if that's gonna like blossom into anything, or if we're just gonna kind of leave it at this like tender friendship, almost lovers. Yeah, I don't know. I'm having a great time reading it though, because it's keeping me on the edge of my seat. I don't know where Sarah J. Maas is going with this, but I'm gonna keep reading. actually finished Heir of Fire, and that might come as a shock because I haven't even created an update since I don't even know what percentage of the way through, maybe like 70-ish% of the way through. So it's definitely time for a little recap, my thoughts on the book, and kind of where I've been at, because it has been 2.5 weeks since I started Heir of Fire, and I have not even filmed, other than the clips I would have just inserted kind of at the ending remarks here, in over a week. So I ended up getting a concussion a little over a week ago, and it was my first concussion, and I didn't really know that I had it until about 24 hours after I had hit my head. And there are clips in this video where I'm wearing a yellow shirt with braids. I had a concussion at that point. I didn't know it. I just thought I had a headache, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And one thing you're not supposed to do when you have a concussion is read and look at screens and do all those things. So I was pretty much doing everything wrong. So once I had kind of almost confirmed that that was indeed like what my ailment was and why I had had such a bad headache, I took a break reading, and I actually haven't read in probably a week. So I just finished up Heir of Fire today. I think I had about 40 or 60 pages left. But yeah, I guess it's kind of time for my thoughts, some updates, kind of where I left off. I think the last update that I had, it was actually my suspicions that Rowan was being set up to be Celaena or Aelin's mate. And that is not the case, and I'm actually so relieved that that is not the case. I was really, really impressed and really enjoyed that Sarah J. Maas did not push a love interest for this book. We have kind of seen the letting go of Chaol from Celaena. We have kind of seen her acceptance that like things kind of happened the way that they did in that relationship, and then kind of seeing this flirtation with Rowan, but kind of more of like just this knowing and this understanding that they're better off as friends. And they are actually Karanim. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that, so I'll put it on the screen. But it's essentially where two people's powers kind of work in tandem with each other and creates like this like almost overwhelming force. Like they just balance each other out. It's kind of like yin and yang almost. And we find out that that's kind of what they are, and that's what that whole like bond was that they were kind of feeling. And he is the ice to her fire. And that was just like a really like beautiful sentiment and like just a powerful friendship dynamic. But at the end of this book, Celaena is able to go to her Aunt Maeve, basically prove that she is worthy, that she has this power, and get some answers from the word keys from her Aunt Maeve. But her Aunt Maeve is a horrible, terrible human being and really wants all the word keys for herself. And it's definitely no surprise that she had murdered people and tried to possess those powers for herself and anything like that Aelin ended up discovering. But Aelin was able to use her powers to kind of freak out Maeve and release her blood oath with Rowan that Maeve and Rowan had. And that's all that Aelin wanted to leave it at, but then Rowan was like, please, like, let me submit myself to you, let's create a blood oath, and I will be like your servant in your court, basically, like I will be your right-hand person. Celaena didn't want to do it, but she kept feeling like she had this like draw to him to do it. So now Celaena and Rowan have a blood oath to one another, and that's kind of like where we left off with Aelin Celaena's story. Is just basically like, I'm gonna rattle the stars, like we will fight back against the king. Like in the next book, Queen of Shadows, we will see Celaena go to Adderland to probably challenge the king, and that's kind of like what her next steps are. As for kind of the rest of the story, the witches, Manon, she ends up being the wing leader. She ends up saving another witch who was attacked by another member of a clan from dying, and basically as a gift for becoming the wing leader from her grandmother, she was given a Crochin witch to kill and to take her cape. And Crochin witches and like all these other witches like the Blackbeaks and Yellowlegs and Blue Bloods, they're all supposed to be like sworn enemies. And this witch is telling Manon, you're evil, but you were made to be evil, so you have the power to change and you know it. And you like almost this knowing, like, why did you choose Abraxos? Why did you save this witch? Like, these thoughts are subconsciously running through Manon, and we're kind of seeing almost like her acceptance that she is supposed to change, but she ends up kind of killing the witch anyway, this Crochin witch, as like a mercy thing, because she realizes it's more of a plea. And again, she was made to be evil. So that's kind of where we ended off with that story, and we did not see that story be woven in with Aelin's, with Chaol's, with anything. So like the war games are over for them, but there was no like tying that back to their story. So this was like almost a separate story woven into Heir of Fire. So I'm super curious to see how that story is going to fit in with like Queen of Shadows in the books going forward, because we're now halfway through this series, which is crazy to say that. But I'm like, there's just so many plot holes, almost like just so many questions left unanswered. Lastly, we also saw Chaol and Dorian and Aiden's story. Aiden has been captured. He is in the dungeon of the king's castle as like, they found out he was a traitor basically. Chaol was found out to be a traitor as well from the king, and Dorian was able to help him flee using his powers against his father and like kind of freeze him against, even though like the king was trying to use his like whatever like black like magic power to stop everybody. But Chaol's able to escape. He also grabs Fleetfoot, which is like kind of cute because it's like we don't really like see any of Fleetfoot really like that much in like the past 3 books, really, since Throne of Glass. So that's cute. Like, I don't know, when is Fleetfoot gonna like be reunited with Aelin? I don't know. That'll be cute though. Hopefully they reunite. Oh my gosh, hopefully she gets her dog back. But we also see the end of Sorsha's life, Darian's lover, even though they didn't like take it as far as like lovers do. But that was expected, honestly. Like, I really didn't have any hopes that Sorsha would live and being introduced to her character, and she knew that it was risky, and she was basically supposed to be a traitor to Dorian. Like, the king, like, I guess was in cahoots with her and everything, but she never betrayed Dorian. She was only like trying to betray the king, really. And yeah, she's beheaded, and that's kind of when Dorian like starts to lose it. And then when Chaol is like threatened and is almost murdered, that's when he like fully unleashes his power. So now Dorian has been given this collar around his neck, kind of like people have been given like their rings to be controlled by the king. And yeah, like it's crazy. Like, how is he gonna control Dorian? And I'm scared because Dorian has this like crazy power, and we have no idea how that's gonna unfold now that he is being controlled by the king. And lastly, pretty much everybody in this world, in this story, knows that Aelin is alive after she defeated Naruk, and I think that's how you say his name, and some of these other guards who are being controlled by the king. All of the word has spread that it was Aelin who defeated them and that she is alive, and kind of, I think people are starting to piece together that Selena is Aelin. Not really sure if the king fully knows that now. I think he does. Like, it was definitely hinted at a lot at the end there, but yeah, there's a lot that was unveiled in Heir of Fire, and Aelin fully stepping into her identity and kind of her journey and trusting herself. And I'm just really proud of her development and really excited for that. And I think that Queen of Shadows is probably going to be way more action-packed than this book was, even though this one did take me so long to read, which sucks, but I really can't control a concussion. Overall, I enjoyed my time with Heir of Fire. It was a 4-star read for me, not quite a 5-star, but I'm excited to continue on with the series. I can't believe I'm halfway through, and I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts were when you read Heir of Fire, if you have read this series. And I just want to thank you so much for watching, for being patient with this video, and I will catch you when I read Queen of Shadows. Okay, bye!